So this week we unpacked a couple of experiences that we had. So I had a very, very good experience with a cold caller a week ago. So we talked about what he did really well and how the call went.
Hmm.
And then Michael had a bit of a
Yeah,
different
I,
experience.
I provided a contrast as to a poor sales experience I had recently where I was a prospect. And that provides a contrast to James's experience, of course. But importantly, we identified how and why that didn't work for me as a prospect and it didn't advance the salesperson's agenda, or if his agenda was to sell to me, which he could have, and what he could have done in place of that. So it should be quite instructive when we look at that a little further on. So there's some good takeaways in this call, James.
It was some good stories, good lessons, and very helpful for anyone that is in sales and trying to get past that. How do I make the prospect feel comfortable? But if you have any
Mhm.
questions, chuck them in the comments.
All right, so let's find a topic. This just came to mind then, and this is a thought. Shoot it down if it's no good. Might not be any good. But when's the last time you were impressed by somebody, the way they carried themselves, or what they asked, or anything in that space? And can you unpack how and why
Mm.
you were impressed and what you took from it, how you can maybe apply it in your world, if at all, other than just being inspired and excited by it? Maybe you can actually use it. Anything come to mind
Yep.
if
Last week,
afloat?
I was cold called by a guy. I actually got him to text me his name and his company afterwards because I didn't need his services right now. But the way he
Okay.
conducted himself on the phone was so
He
good.
called you on your cell phone.
Yeah.
How
Yep.
would he have got
Cold
your number?
off the website.
Okay.
Yep.
Yep.
Cold called.
Good.
And I get a lot of Google ads and digital marketer cold calls, obviously.
Yep. Yep.
And they're usually, oh, I know this call is going to be a little bit out of the blue. But I was, the type, and
Yes.
he was just cool as a cucumber. He goes, "Hey, James," I think his name was Blake. Blake here. How you doing? And I was
Yes.
like, "Good, mate. How are you?" And he goes, "Good, good." And his cold call acumen was just spot on. He was like, "I was having a look at the site. I noticed this, this, and this. I mean, you're probably going to
Did
tell
he
me that
did,
you've already got
did
it
he
sorted."
introduce did he introduce himself when he called? Did he say like, "Hi, Mike, James, it's Michael," or did that come later? Like, did he lead with that,
Uh,
or did he not lead with that?
what did he say? He goes, "Hey, mate, Blake here. How you doing?" He did say his name, but it wasn't Blake from so and so. "Hey, mate,
So he
Blake
went
here.
in.
How you doing?" And he
Yep.
spoke to me like an old friend would, and I was like, "Hey,
Yep.
Blake, how you doing?" He goes, "Good, good." He goes, and I can't even remember how he framed it, but he was so smooth on the phone. And I just
Mm-hmm.
said, I was like, "Hey, look, we've already got it sorted. We've got a really good team that handles that." But
Mm-hmm.
I just said, "You do a few cold calls, don't you?" And he didn't
Mm-hmm.
hide from it. He goes, "Yeah, I've done a lot of cold calls and I'm pretty
Mm-hmm.
comfortable doing them." And then we just had a bit of a chat about that. And I just said, "Look, we don't have a need for your services now, but I want you to send me a text with your name and your company.
Mm-hmm.
And if we do have a need for the services at any point, I'll reach out and I'll let you know." And he goes, "Yeah, no worries, mate." And then he challenged me on something really nicely. And it wasn't like, "You're wrong."
Mm-hmm.
And he just said, "I know you got a really good team." And he added a little bit of advice, challenged me on something, and it was really accurate. And the whole time I was sitting there like, "You're good. You are
Did
exactly what
he
I would want."
did he give you a compliment to some degree, and then eventually there was a but or a however, like
Yeah.
something like that?
It
However,
was
have you ever?
along the lines of like, "I figured you'd have a team because, from what I saw, this is going really well. But however,
Yeah.
uh, have you considered this, or maybe you could get them to look at this, or do they already have
Yeah.
this covered?"
Yeah.
And there was none of it like accusatory.
Yeah.
It was just so
Yeah.
relaxed, so
Yeah.
conversational. It was one of those ones where you sit back and it's like, this is how cold calling should be done.
Yep. Yeah. Nice. Nice. Did you ask him where he was trained or where he learned cold calling?
No, I didn't. I do have his number though. Hang on.
Yeah.
Um, I
Does
should
he
text.
have a social profile? Like, has he put himself out there?
I think. Hang on. His name was Jackson,
Okay.
and it was on Friday.
There's some good cold callers out there at the moment. Like, I see a couple on Instagram that are good. You know, you can see they've come from the Benjamin or the Sandler, or it appears they've come from the Benjamin Dennehy or the Sandler lineage because you can see reference points to their approach. But they put their own spin on it, and they bring a sense of fun and relaxed, open, curious energy to a cold call, which is fundamental to the cold calling approach that both you and I identify with.
So I'm just having a look at his page now. There is another Jackson. I believe there was something about real estate in
Right.
his title. So maybe he was in real estate,
What was his solution? What was he offering? What problems
just
did he specialize in fixing?
digital marketing services.
It felt
I
like
think he was
lead gen or something else.
I just ecom growth. I think
Okay. Okay.
he's
Did,
looks like Queensland as well.
can you recall if he like did he describe if you can recall this, of course, did he describe the service they offer as, quote unquote, ecom growth, or did he put it into layman's terms where you can actually feel it? I had this conversation on coaching today, which is why I ask.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't speeds and feeds. It wasn't just spec. It
Yeah,
was very very personalized.
yeah, 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 yeah. Um, Tangent alert. I had this conversation this morning. I was helping one of my students, Rachel, who you know well. I was helping her with a particular, um, I guess, script, but it was written. It was an email template, and we took it from, you know, quite general, like these weren't her words, but it's going to illustrate the point, like strategic growth on your platform. They weren't the words, but kind of that sort of language. We took it more to something they could actually identify stronger with and actually feel, and would be the sort of language that they would use. Strategic growth in your platform is very corporate. It's very vanilla. It's very one size fits all. We've heard it a million times. No one gets up in the morning and goes, I think I'd like to talk about strategic growth on my platform today. But they do talk about things like, I think I'd like to double the amount of visitors I get every week because I think I could have more conversations and turn more people into clients. Like, there's a big difference in those two types of languages, which is why I asked you that question to see whether he tapped into his version of that.
No, he did. I've actually found him.
Yep.
He looks relatively young.
Yep.
I think he was in real estate at some point, and I think he's trying to grow it. And he's actually a Brizzy boy.
Right. You're going to reach out to him? I guess you've
Uh,
already had a conversation with him, haven't you?
yeah, I probably would. I mean, if
Yeah.
he's trying to scale this thing, but I just don't
Yeah.
have anything for him at the moment. But when I do,
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. Yeah. Good. 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 Did he make you feel heard and understood, and that you had choice and options, and that he was working with you as opposed to the opposite of all those sorts of things?
There was no trying to back me into a corner. None of that.
Hmm. Hmm.
It was very conversational, and it kind of leans into what we said last week. There's lots of lines and things that you can say,
Hmm.
but there was none of that. It was just a good conversation. You could tell he'd done a lot of them. He was really collected. Uh,
Mm.
I think the biggest thing is he would ask a question and give me space
Yep.
to answer it.
Yep. 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 Nice. Nice. Um, Very good. My example I'm going to use is not sales related, because if I sit here and think right now, when's the last time I was impressed by somebody? Extraordinarily impressed. I'd have to go to Saturday just gone. So today's Wednesday, 4 or 5 days ago, and this has nothing to do with sales. Spoiler alert. But we went to a birthday party here in Australia, and it was a pretty flash birthday party. It was like 40 kids there, which is a lot. 46-year-olds there, and all the parents as well, and brothers and sisters. Like, it was probably 100 people there, and it was fully catered to, and all that sort of stuff. But the lady I'm going to mention was actually the grandmother. So you had the parents hosting the party, and they did a great job. They were fantastic hosts. And then when the kids were taken care of, when it came time for them to sit down and have their meals, which led to the cake, kind of the parents were just standing around, but certainly from our point of view, we didn't expect anything because it was a kids' party and we were just sort of loitering around talking and whatnot. Then this grandmother appears from nowhere, who I hadn't even seen until then, and she was the mother of the little girl. And she appears from nowhere and rounded up the parents in like 3 seconds with amazing, collaborative, fun, welcoming, warm energy, and took us out to an area that they had set up, which had catering ready to go for the parents, which wasn't advertised and wasn't expected either, and couldn't have attended to us better. It was 5-star treatment the whole way. Made us feel so warm and fuzzy. Made us feel so important. And there was a miscalculation from their end in the sense that, let's say there were 30 parents and they had food for 20, and she couldn't have been quicker and snappier to make sure that everybody knew that more food was coming, and found extra space for people. And then the food did come, and she came and checked, and I've never seen anything like it. So it was. I told her, I said, "You've missed your calling." I said, "If you're not a caterer, You have to become one now. You've missed your calling, and we laughed. But it was just a good reminder and these are the principles we can apply to sales. Things like reading the room, making us feel important, making us feel heard and understood, making us feel like the stars of the show, even though we were not. She made us feel like that. Being one step ahead of us before we even had to ask for anything, and just generating great energy and so much goodwill and so much good intent towards her. So it was amazing to be on the receiving end of that, and totally unexpected. And it made quite the impression, hence I'm talking about it right now, because it really was over and above. So that's the last time I was massively blown away or impressed or was taken back, like, whoa, this is next level service or treatment or care, for want of a better word. So yeah, that's my little story.
Nice. Nice.
Yes.
It's not often you meet someone like that that can have that level of crowd control and not be demanding per se. Like the warm and fuzzy is not the experience that I usually get when someone's trying to manage a horde of 30 odd people.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting.
It was nice. It was very nice to be on the receiving end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the sales realm,
Mm-hmm.
when was the last time you experienced that?
That's a good question. I have to really think about that, and something doesn't come to mind. I have had great sales experiences, but as of right now, I can't think of one off the top of my head. I had a bad one last week. I actually wrote about it. I don't know whether you saw that post I did last week on going to the art shop. I posted about this about a week ago. So I've had a bad one recently, and I certainly wasn't looking for one. I'm not a difficult prospect because I'll always give a salesperson a chance. But I'm kind of rooting for them. I want them to do a good job. But unfortunately, the vast majority of salespeople are terrible. So more often than not, it's a negative or an unremarkable experience. More often than not, unfortunately. But last week, I know this wasn't the question you asked, but this is an answer I can give, which is somewhat relevant to provide contrast to your good experience the other day. We've been walking past an art store 4 times a day on the way to school and the way back, and we do that twice a day. And we've been looking and admiring the beautiful artwork in the window, which is mostly Indigenous Australian artwork. And I really like Indigenous Australian artwork, and I like the idea of taking some of that back to Guatemala to bring a little piece of Australia back to Guatemala. So we've been walking past, and the art's caught our eye. We haven't looked at the prices, but I don't expect it to be unattainable. There's no reason it would be unattainable, the price, if I like the piece. So there's no hardcore price issue. It's not like the top of the line Rolex watch where like I really like it, but I haven't got 300 grand, or I wouldn't spend 300 grand on a watch. I don't know how much they are, but I'm sure I can afford it. The main question we had though is all of the art in the window. And I've never bought art before, so I'm really very much a beginner in the art world. The main question we had was the material aspect of it and the transportability of it, because we've got to fly back to Guatemala. And we don't want to ship it because it'll be prohibitively expensive, and then customs and duty comes into it, like too hard. And we're conscious of the fact that it would need to be portable on a flight, checked in luggage and things like that. So the main question we had as a start point was, we finally went in after 2 weeks of looking. We finally went in, I think Thursday last week, and as an elderly gentleman in there, appeared to be the owner of the store. Initial meet and greet, and I said to him, "Hey, we really like some of the artwork you've got on display. We're traveling though. We're going overseas shortly. Firstly, is it in a material? Firstly, are they paintings or are they printed? Because I was thinking if they're prints, I could buy the high-res image, print it in Guatemala." There goes the transport issue. And I don't really care if it's prints, or I want the image. I don't really care if it's paint or print. No, they're all paintings. I said, okay, great. I said, are they like originals or he said, yes. I said, what material is it on? And I asked because I told him I was asking. I said, I asked because I'll need to like roll it up or pack it down or something like that. So A, what material is it? Can it be packed down? And B, does it have to come in the frames that it's in? Maybe these are beginner questions, but I'm a beginner to art. And he wouldn't answer the question. He said, how much do you want to spend? My criteria wasn't based on how much I wanted to spend. By the way, I'm in fitness gear. It's the morning, I'm about to do my exercise after that, so I probably don't look $1 million. And I said, I'm not thinking about price yet. I'm thinking about the material and the transportability, because that will define if I can even make a purchase or not. He goes, yeah, I get that, but how much do you want to spend? And I said, you're asking the wrong questions. I haven't even thought about how much I want to spend. I said, can you please answer the question? And then we kind of got into a bit of like the vibe was bad. And then he said, he realized, he read the room. He goes, because my facial expressions betrayed the fact I wasn't happy. And I had no intent to pick a fight. Like, I went in there ready to buy something. And he goes, I asked because I'm just trying to help you. And I go, well, you're not helping. I said, you're not helping because A, you're not answering my questions, and B, you keep asking me a question that I have no interest in answering. So then I just walked out. I just halfway through, I'm like, I'm not even going to have this conversation. He'd annoyed me enough that I walked out. I had a desire to buy the products. It turns out they were on canvas and you can roll them up and you don't have to come with a frame, and the size wasn't too much of an issue. I never saw the prices, but I have no doubt I could have paid it and would have paid it for the right one. We never had that conversation. And now I'm going to keep walking past that store every day, and I'll never go in there again on principle, out of spite. So that was a bad experience, and that absolutely could have been a sale for him. And when he may have had a good reason for asking that question, but the problem is he didn't appeal to my self-interest in the way that he asked it and the context that he gave, which is why he was asking it. It felt like we're being financially qualified. And I'm not against financially qualifying people, but there's a way to do it. There's a way to do it so the person on the other end, it appeals to their self-interest and makes sense, and is palatable. And it was none of those things. So I was out of there. So that's a negative experience, to provide contrast to your positive one. Thoughts on that story?
Yeah, I've had not a lot, a good amount like that, where the salesperson just thinks that I'm in charge here. They're going to do what I say.
Mm,
I can ask the hard questions. They are in my world, and I think a lot of people fall into that in sales. But the fact that this was an older fella,
yeah,
and and he's probably done this a good amount. I don't
yeah,
know what it is. Maybe it's just, and the fact that you're in athletic gear is not an excuse, because most people wear athletic gear out and about now. It has
yeah.
nothing to do with that price qualifying, and it's art. It's not. Uh, Maybe he was expensive, sure, but I don't know. Maybe he was having a bad day. Probably
Yeah,
not.
I don't know. I don't know. He had an accent. I thought for a second he might have been Spanish, for a second, but I don't think he was. I think he was Italian. But we had such a disconnect going on that I was going to say, "Are you Spanish by any chance?" And if he were, I was going to, as you know, I speak Spanish. I was going to flip to Spanish to see if we could actually communicate like normal people. But I was like, I don't think his accent is, and you know what? I don't want to communicate with him anyway. So that was not disappointing because I didn't go in with expectations. It was just another reminder of how fragile sales can be. You can have somebody come in who has the intent to purchase and the ability and will to purchase, and one little disconnect can unravel quickly, and before you know it, there's a degree of hostility. Even I've done it as a salesperson. I've made miscalculations and missteps and misspoke, and it's unraveled quickly. So it was a good reminder. Not that I needed it, but sometimes it's nice to feel it, that it can be fragile what we do. Yeah, in a
But I
different world
think
with a different salesperson, I might have walked out with 3 or 4 pieces.
I'm I'm really forgiving. If someone's rude to me in a sales process, I will point it out and I just say, "Hey, what are we doing here? This is really uncomfortable. It's not serving anyone." But I'm very, very patient in a sales process because I understand most people suck at it. The only
Yes.
place where I'm unforgiving is really bad customer service. So, for example,
Mm-hmm.
having a pull put in now, I'm so
Mm-hmm.
patient. They were 3 months late in actually starting the project. By the time I'd come as close to as I get to throwing the toys out of the cot, there were 12 unreturned calls. As in, yeah. All right, I'll figure it out and call you back. 12, not an exaggeration. And then in the end, I rang the owner and I just said, "Ooh," I did swear, because he's very Aussie, and when we met, that was the language. And I just said, "What the f is going on?" And he goes, "Oh, have they not done that yet?" And I said, "No." And he goes, "Oh, leave it with me." And it was booked in for that Wednesday. And then since then, what's happened is things are weeks behind where they were meant to be. No one calls me back. I just call him. And then I've noticed since then that the staff, I mean, it happened again yesterday, but the staff actually call me back after a couple of days if something happens. But this whole experience is hands down the worst I've ever had with any kind of investment, because the communication, and it's such an easy fix. Hey, mate,
Mm-hmm.
we're going to be able to get out there next week. We're just waiting to book it in. Is that okay? No
Mm-hmm.
worries. But the
Mm-hmm.
fact
Mm-hmm.
that I'm having to chase up every single step, and now it's costing us money because things
Yep.
are getting pushed back and we have to spend more. Uh,
Yep.
I'm really unforgiving in that instance. And if they say they're going to call me back, I just say, no, 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 I'll wait on the line while you figure that out, because no one
Yep.
called me back.
Yep.
It's not good
Yep.
enough.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. That's fair.
Yeah.
Fair. Look, people can be forgiving if, similar to the things we said earlier, if they feel heard and understood, or they feel you're being honest in your intent and collaborative in your intent. Um, People are general, and the reason given is reasonable and understandable. Most decent people are pretty forgiving when those things are in play, but very often those things are not in play, or they are in play in the background, but it's not handled in a way that connects that, and then there's a disconnect, and you get angry and upset and frustrated, and yeah, it's a bad experience.
Mm, and
Mm.
it's so easily avoidable. And now I'm doing the much longer sales cycle stuff, as well
Yep.
as building a customer base that you're going to nurture and look after.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Karen just popped in the background in the
Oh,
picture.
did she?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's quite funny, just like a floating person. Uh,
Yeah.
what was I saying? Yeah, I'm looking at it in a much longer instance of, it's not necessarily about what happens. We've had a couple of mistakes, things that went wrong, out of our control, but the biggest thing
Mm.
is on how we go about resolving it.
Mm.
If you just say, "Hey, I don't know what happened, but I'm going to fix it," most
Yep.
of the time, even if people are in a panic,
Yep.
you having that conviction behind what you're doing, they're just like,
Yep.
"Oh, no worries."
Yep.
And then by
Yep.
actually following through with it, as soon as it
Yep.
happens once, if anything happens again, they're like, "Oh, James will fix it."
Yep. Yeah. So the take home message is, if you are, for whatever reason, creating a problematic situation for your client or prospect, play offense, get ahead of it. Like, deliver the message ahead of time and prepare them for it, and present options ideally, rather than wait for that dreaded phone call, and worse, 6 missed calls. Offense almost always trumps defense. And if you get ahead of a message and deliver it your ways, and this ties in with qualifying a prospect on a sales call. Like, I don't want them to tell me they have to speak to their wife at the end of a call when I try and close them. I want to find out at the start what the decision making process looks like. While I have a degree of control, where I can shape the narrative, while I still have ammo in the chamber, things like that. It's very similar to delivering bad news. Like, get ahead of it. Listen, I'm going to have to deliver you some bad news, and you're not going to like it. The good news is we are still going to do your pull. The bad news is timelines are going to get pushed out a little bit. That's the headline. I can tell you why if you want the why, and I'm happy to do that. But the headline is, we're going to be 3 days later than we said we initially would. Apologies, it's things out of our control. As I said, I'll unpack it if you want me to. But here's what we're going to do to fast track that, blah, 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 blah. Are you okay with that, or do you have any thoughts that you want to share? 9 times out of 10, they'll be okay with it.
Yep.
And that obviously didn't happen to you, it sounds like.
No, neither with you. Uh,
No,
yeah.
no.
What do
Yeah,
you think
it
the
happens.
solution is, though? If you were to try and give some kind of broad, overarching statement for the experience you had, uh, and how to avoid it, what would that be?
Well, I think it comes back to, you know, he didn't tap into the fundamental principles that I think are non-negotiable in sales if you want to be a leader of sales. He wasn't listening. He didn't make me feel heard and understood. He didn't make me feel I had choice and options. He didn't make me feel like he had a collaborator. And none of this is at the expense of challenging my positions or thoughts or ideas or concept of best practices. That can all still come into play. But none of those things were felt from my end. Now, because none of those things were felt from my end, ultimately that leads to a feeling of hostility in an extreme sense. But ultimately, I have options. I have self-awareness. I have self-esteem. I have the will to act on my intent, which is, if I don't like this, I'll just walk out. Like, I'm not embarrassed that I'll be polite, just smile and go along with it. I'm like, hey, this doesn't work for me, I'm out. So I executed that and walked out of the store. Had he made me feel the opposite, heard and understood, listened to, answered my questions, maybe challenged some of asked me some questions, which maybe challenged my perception of best practices or suitability or what the best play is here, I would have reciprocated that. I would have bought into that conversation, and maybe I would have walked in thinking I was going to get X, and I would have walked out with Y, because he had me realize in that store that Y is a much better play. And when I looked at Y, I'm like, you know what, you're right. Y is better. Okay, let's look at some Y options then, because it gets clear on my criteria. Then he could have the conversation about budget. He might say, not how much do you want to spend, because that's not the right question. Because that's when people buy art, unless maybe it's like specifically for an investment with an ROI play and all that. The start point question is not how much do I want to spend. The start point is, do I want this piece, or how does this piece fit into my collection, or something like that. Eventually, the question becomes, can I afford it, or am I prepared to pay that amount of money for it? But like the start point isn't how much do I want to spend. Like I haven't even considered that question. But a better question might have been, okay, Michael, based on your criteria, here's 4 pieces that I think is worth looking at. What are your thoughts? Oh, I like number 1, I like number 3. 2 and 4 I don't like. Okay, great. Do you have a preference of number 1 and 3? By the way, do you have to select one, or are you open to taking 2 if it all lines up? No, I could take 2. Obviously, depends on price and sizing for packaging. He tells me, well, 1 is X amount of size, this is how big it is. 2, we can actually condense it, put it in the same container, so you won't actually pay any excess shipping because it'll fit in the same container. Oh, wow. Okay, well, okay, cool. How much are they? The same price or different prices? Now we have a price conversation. Well, Michael, I were to tell you it's $1,000 for one, and the other one's 1,000 as well. You can buy them individually for 1,000 each, or if you wanted to get them both, I'll do it for 1,800. What would be your thoughts? I'll take them both. Is that the best price you can do? Maybe have a little haggle and I get it for $1,650 for the 2. I'll walk out with 2 pieces. I don't think the pieces would have been more than that, by the way. And that's Australian dollars too, which is 2/3 of a US dollar. It could have gone like that.
Maybe he is just frustrated because a lot of people come in there and they're not able to afford his art, and he thinks that that's the solution to it.
Maybe.
Maybe. But that's not the solution for sure.
Look, you and I are huge fans of price qualifying and having price conversations, but there's a way to do it. Like, I'm not against him price qualifying me if that's what he feels he needs to do. But whenever I price qualify somebody, I don't do it at the expense of hijacking the agenda in a crude way, which he did, which is ignoring my question 2 times and bringing in his own questions with no context that appealed to my self-interest as to why he was doing it. And it never creates hostility. It actually feels like an appropriate question. It feels like a totally appropriate question. Like if you walk into my retail store and I sell black t-shirts, you and I both like black t-shirts. I might say to you first, you come in a black t-shirt. So I already know you like black t-shirts, unless you have to wear them. And I might even ask you that, hey, James, can I ask, are you buying a black t-shirt because you love black t-shirts and just want more? Or are you buying because you have to wear them for work? Like, what's going on here? Because depending on your motive, you may have a different criteria. If you're a lover of connoisseur of black t-shirts, you might buy my $300 ones. If you're a barista and you go through a t-shirt one a week because wear and tear, you might just want the $20 one. So, like, depending on your answer, that could determine where this conversation goes. Oh, I'm a connoisseur of black t-shirts. I love black t-shirts. That's all I wear. Okay, got it. Got something in mind as far as materials, cut, fabric, shade of black as a start point, or are you blank canvas? Oh, no, I've got something in mind. Great. What do you got in mind? Blah, 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 blah. Okay, well, based on what you've said, our premium options are in the 200 to 300 range. I can show you those if you want to see those. Our off-the-shelf, cheap and cheerful, but do the job are between 30 and 50. Do you want me to show you both? Do you want me to focus on one of the two? What section do you want me to take you to, James? See, I'm price qualifying you, but you're feeling heard and understood, and I'm presenting both options to you. Just choose your own adventure. Oh, I'm a connoisseur. Take me to your best ones, please. Great, let's go.
200 to 300.
Heard, understood, collaborative, working with it.
It is collaborative. You allow them to control or feel as though there's an element of control in the journey.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. He could have done a version of that with me, and I would have gone along. If he handled it well, I would have gone along with it. I can be a great prospect, but I can be a bad prospect too.
And the thing is, he would probably walk out and say, oh, that guy was such a dick.
Probably. I just wanted to be heard and understood. I just wanted a collaborator.
But it like we said at the start, and I feel like this might be a good place to wrap up. Like you said at the start, you are very patient, tolerant, because most people are really bad at sales, and you're okay to go along for the journey. You're not rude. but it takes a really bad salesperson for you to be even remotely reactive.
Yep. I gave him 2 chances and he butchered both of them. So I was like, okay, I'm not giving you a third.
Yep.
Because it was on the same issue. Anyway, you live and learn, you move on. It's no big deal, but it's a good reminder. It's, because you can get on a good roll and have lots of good conversations, and it's a good reminder that, drop the ball even for a moment and it can all come undone. Now, a good salesperson rarely drops the ball, and when they do, they don't to a degree that they can't recover from it 9 times out of 10. But anyway, there's a story and there's some applicable lessons for our viewers to take from it, both the positive from your experience on how he made you feel and how you now have become an advocate for him, and you'll probably send business his way at some stage, and on my end, talking about the opposite of that experience and how and why that didn't work and what he could have done in place of that to have made it work. So yeah, should be a few lessons in there for our viewers.
Awesome. All right, let's wrap up here.
Cool. See you next week, James.